Okay, we're in the middle of the sugya of schach. What constitutes kosher schach? We learned out that it has two components. One, it has to be gedulei min haaretz, and two, it's not makabel tumah. Different sources. Like the Mandi Amma, who learns that the reason for sukkahs is danani kavod. He learns from the cloud that just like so it came up from the earth. It came up from the earth, which is gedulei haaretz, and it's not makabel tumah. So, like the Mandi Amma, that sukkahs mamish Rabbi Akiva, that is sukkahs mamish. So we had two sources. One source was ba'asbicha migorcha miyakvecha. So you're gathering your psoilus, your junk of what from your yekev, from your goyrin, from your granary, or from your yekev, from your wine press, the junk, right? It's not makabel tumah because there's no food. It's not the food. It's the twigs attached to it. It's the grain, not the grain part. It's the chaff part. The stalk part. All that. So that was the source. There was another source from Nehemiah when they gave him a whole speech, and they said hadassim, types of hadassim shoita, and kosher hadassim shoita. They don't align together. So therefore, one was for this. One was for the arba minim. The other one was for the sukkah. And hadas is gedulei haaretz. It's not makabel tumah. So those were the sources, right? So now we're in the middle of a sugya figuring out like different things we went through yesterday. I need to say pishtin at certain periods of time. It is makabel tumah once it's kamar malacha, if there has three processes being soaked, beaten, and combed. And now we're going to go through a few more interesting things. And the book brings in only one thing. So if you bought your book tonight and you expect to get your money's worth, it's not going to be there. You didn't bring your book tonight.
Get my $20 back.
We'll look at something anyway because I saw the book here.
Yeah, okay. We'll look at one thing. Okay. Okay. Anyway. So Yud Beis Amid Beis. So Amar Rav Yehuda, 3 lines in the bottom. Amar Rav Yehuda, Hani Shushay Bit Ushiratzrei. Now these are things that what they are. People don't eat them. That's basically what it is. Right? It says Rashi, the last Rashi, the people don't eat these things. So therefore, since people don't eat them, they grow from the ground, and you can use them as schach. Abaya says, b'shushay misachachin, with shushay you could use, even though you could use. However, b'shavatzrei loy misachachin, shvatzrei not. The question is, if it's the people don't eat it, and it's not makabel tumah, so why should you not be able to use shvatzrei? So my timer, Amid Aleph, Kivin, the sorry rachayo, since it smells, the odor is noxious. Shavik, Lahu, Benafik, people will go ahead, what? And they'll leave the sukkah. So the people can leave the sukkah. I saw a pshat that it's not to shuvat ain't to duru. People don't live in the house with something that is noxious. And if that's the case, then there might even be an issa deraisa. The question is like a diras srucha, right? We said a person doesn't live in a diras srucha. Usually it refers to, we said we made a diak, it's a kosher sukkah, but people don't live that way. So pasha, that's over here also. It's a kosher sukkah, but people don't live that way. But there's a deya that it's psul it's not to shu is anything to do. You're not living like you live, and therefore why it might even be psul deraisa. The star pata from a sukkah is when there's a kosher sukkah. It's a kosher sukkah. You want to say that? Maybe. I had an horror. But the Gemara is going to say that an elephant is kosher for a wall. Right. Now, if you're going to leave the sukkah because this stuff is not geschmack, right? Trust me, right? If you ever been, in the old Beis Yaakov in Yerushalayim was next to the zoo. And they used to have the chuppahs there. I still remember in the middle of chuppah when the wind changed. It was before you were born. When the wind changed, right, you'd smell the elephants right in the middle. It was like not geschmack.
Rabbi, in Erevin, and maybe you covered this, but in Erevin they had cases where an animal was a wall, was part of it.
Yeah, we're going to see that an animal could be a kosher wall. Anything that's possible b'schach is kosher for the doifen. My question is, since an elephant is kosher, why wouldn't it be a problem of smell? You're telling me now the reason that that's what I'm making a comparison between. That's schach. It's a wall, but still, in other words, this is kosher schach. It's kosher schach. But the reason you shouldn't use it is because it smells. So ostensibly, if just schach, the wall also, you shouldn't use because it smells. Now, it's not a psul in the sukkah. It's not a psul in the sukkah. Ein mesachim ba usually means that it's midiraisa, it's good, but ein mesachim ba. That was the deal we made yesterday, guys, right? That was the difference. That was the difference between the halal haystack and the chavilim on top. It was because they were soitzer, right? We said, and one says ein mesachim ba, the other one says ein sukkah. Ein sukkah means is this kind of sukkah. That means bench. It's not a sukkah. So, but over here, a mesachim balachar be drabana.
The wall's not at the point.
Again, for sure. Again, let's go through this. Is it kosher schach?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, why does the Bible say you should not use it? Because it stinks. So, in other words, is this an elephant the kosher wall? Yeah. So good. So now, so question.
A lot more. Back then, everything stunk.
It's so bad.
You're not that old.
And then you give it a shower, it feels better. This could sitting much
Right.
better.
The elephant goes to the bathroom somewhere else.
Okay, I'm glad. Listen, good. We have Tourette's. It's my kasha. You can have your Tourette's. I don't like them. No, my daughter says. You can give your opinion.
Put a phone tag in it. Are you a Democrat?
Okay, I'm Rav Chana bar Rava. Hani hizmi v'higi. Rashi says these are different types of bushes. In Yiddish, in English, I'd say they're thorns and thistles. So hizmi v'higi. Mesachim, you can use them as schach. Abaya Oma behizmi mesach kinon. But hizmi you could have behigi loy mesach kinon. But kigi you shouldn't. My timer. Even the natri terpayu, since their leaves go ahead wide and they fall, shavik levinafik. He's going to leave the sukkah. When I was a kid growing up, they didn't have bamboo, and they used to go to the swamps and they'd get the boat and it would just in your soup you'd have like, trust me, it wasn't noodles. It was you'd have the stuff floating around in there, right? It was awful. It was really awful. Yeah, it's good to be young, right? Yeah. Now you said bamboo. What's that? Right? You said mats. Bamboo. What's that?
It was pine leaves.
What?
It was pine leaves. The little things needles fell in.
They fell in your soup. No,
Pine leaves.
They were like bulrushes. They were like they grew in the swamps. They were like reeds. They were. Yeah. Okay. You see them in the Meadowlands. The Meadowlands. That's what they used to use. Anyway, so over here it doesn't mean it's not kosher schach. It means you shouldn't do it because it's going to cause problems. Just like a smell causes a problem, so too falling leaves in your food is not geschmack. Amrav Gidlam Arav. Hi, and it seems like it's an Eitz Toiva. Amrav Gidlam Arav. Hayaf Gusa Didikla Misachnabu. Rashi brings fellas, and it seems to be they would cut the stump of a palm tree, and it would have branches coming out, and all those branches coming out, it looked like a chavile kash. It looked like a bundle of kash of straw. We saw this bundle. The Mishnah said you shouldn't use it, right? So they had these. This thing had a bunch of branches coming out of it, and it says you could use it. And afagav de agidi, even though what it's tied up, you're gonna have to tie up these things. Eged bidei shemayim lashmi eged. It's tying, it's Bishemayim that he put this all together. Kadosh Baruch Hu, it's not considered eged. And afagav the hodor aged lahu aged bechad leishmei aged. And even though you're gonna have to tie, it seems I don't have a picture of it. I think maybe in the Pirush Chai may have a picture of it, right? In the Pirush Chai may have a picture, but it doesn't pay to spend a lot of time on it, guys. Picture this: it has the things going out, and to use it, you're gonna have to tie it. So first of all, the fact that it's a bunch of them. It's from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. The fact that you have to tie it together, since it's one thing, it's not considered. An aguda, guys, is more than one thing. It's usually 3, and according to some people, it's 25. Right? Aguda, when it says when the chavili kash, is the machloikas between the Bav and Yerushalmi, whether it's 3 or 25. But one thing, if you take one thing, let's say you have one branch, you tie you have lulav, guys. Lulav is branching out, right? You tie that. That's not considered eged. That's not considered eged. Eged is what? When you tie the hadass and varavis, that's eged. Why? Because it's more than one thing. You're tying 3 things together, right? So now you have to get the lesson of binding. Get the lesson of binding. So over here, you're not binding one thing. Amarav Chista Marvina Barshila Hani Dukri the Kani. These stalks of grain of cane. Mesachkin bu. This is the same thing as the palm shoot, guys. It's the same type of thing with the same type of dialogue. Afagav de akidi ninu, even though what they're akidi, meaning they require a good, shemayim lishmei agud. And afagav de hoda agalu, even though you're going to have to tie it to use it, agud bechad lishmei agud. Eged bechad is lishmei eged. Okay, Tanya Namiyachi, we have a brisa that substantiates this. Konim vidukronim, mashma, two separate things. Konim vidukronim, mesachkin behen. Says when konim pshit, of course you can go ahead and use reeds. So it's a wonderful thing. And for the Gemara, aim konim shel dukronim, konim of dukronim, mesachkin behen. And these dukronim are similar to what we've been discussing now, like they're shooting out in different directions. Again, since we said something in the name of Ravina Bashila, we're going to go ahead and mention something else. So this is where Sukkot meets Pesach. Guys, Sukkot jumps into Pesach, right? We're going to go and discuss again. Often when we mention a person's name, and it's not very common, they'll mention all the times this person has something to say. So right now, the person is under discussion is Rav Chisda in the name of Ravina Bar Shila. So Hani Maririsa de Agma, this morer of the swamp, this the swamp morer. Adam Yotzim in Yechavasi Pesach. You can be Yotzi Yechiv morer with this swamp morer. You can be Yotzi Yechiv with this swamp morer. Meisiv Elish Yekasha Ezoiv. The Ezoiv, when it says you use a high sap, Ezoiv, when you use a high sap, B'lei Ezoiv Yovan. You don't use a Greek high sap. B'lei Ezoiv Kuchli, not a blue high sap. B'lei Ezoiv Midbori, not a desert high sap. B'lei Ezoiv Romi, not a Roman high sap. B'lei Ezoiv Sheyesh L'Shem Levaya, nor any high sap that has a surname. So who adin by Morer? Since this is called Marisa de Agma, it's called Marisa, it has a surname de Agma, you shouldn't be able to use it. With the din is Morer, Chasa, Chazeres, something that is Morer, but not something that has a surname. So just like you don't have a surname by what? By the Ezoiv, who adin by Morer. Rabbi, I'll give you the following teretz. Kol shen ishtana shmoi koydem matan Torah. Anything that had a name before Matan Torah and it was changed. Ubo Torah v'hikpidalov, and the Torah came along with makbid, b'yidu sheyesh l'shem levaya. So Pirish, guys, there was Ezoiv Kuchli, and Ezoiv Roimi, and Ezoiv Midbori. And then the Torah came and said, what? Ezoiv. So why was the Torah stating Ezoiv? To tell you, don't go after what? The Shem Levaya. But Morer over here, Morer the Agma, before Matan Torah was not called Morer the Agma, it was called Morer. Since it was called Morer before, and the Torah said Morer, you're good. But Hani, the Marisa the Agma, what's under discussion, the Morer of the swamp, its name was not changed before Matan Torah, Klau, and therefore what you can go ahead and use it. So one teretz. So again, what's a kasha? We're bringing in Morer with nothing to do with Sukkah whatsoever, just because it's the Ravina to Rav Chisda to Ravina Bar Shila, and they're saying that why Morer? Why can you use Morer the Agma? I'll tell you why. Because Morer the Agma was called Morer. It was called Morer. Ezoiv, Midbari, Kuchli, Raimi, that was called before, and therefore, since it was called that before, and then the Torah said, no, Ezoiv, it's Makbid Gomer. Another Pshat, Rav Amahani Marisa Stomashmayo. It's called, there's no such thing as Marisa the Agma, guys. It's called Morer. V'hai dekorle Marisa the Agma, Agma. It's a ways, guys. It's giving you a location. This is called Morer. Where are you going to find this Morer? In the swamp. In other words, by Ezoiv Kuchli, that's its name. Ezoiv Midbari, that's his name. Ezoiv Rami, that's his name. What's Marisa the Agma? It's Morer. What's the Agma? You want to find this Morer, you go to the swamp, you'll find this Morer. So therefore, it's not Shver at all. Rav Chisda, says Rav Chisda, Igid Bichad, as I mentioned earlier, if you tie one, Loishmei Eged, that's not considered what? That's not considered Eged. If you tie one thing, right, that it's not considered Eged. Now, this is halacha, guys, le'inyan schach. Le'inyan schach, that what? You can't have a bundle of schach, gezeres oitzer, or anytime you need an ezoiv. Anytime you need a high sap. What comes to mind is by paraduma. That you need an ezoiv, right? The ezoiv shnei talas, and you have to go ahead and tie something together. Good. So over there, anytime you need to tie something together, then what? Then one is not considered eged. Shalosh, three things together is shmei eged. Three things together is called eged. That's called tying. You have tie three things together. and that'll be good, very geschmack, right? With the lulav, that's considered whether a lulav tzorach eged or doesn't need eged, very geschmack, right? Very geschmack. Shnayim is machloikis Rabbi Yossi Rabbanan. Shnayim is machloikis Rabbi Yossi Rabbanan. Now we're going to get into paraduma. When it says paraduma, it seemed you needed three of these plants, the azoiv, and each plant you need 3 givolim, guys, 3 bulbs on top of it. That's what you had to go ahead and start with. 3, and each one had 3, a total of 9 balls on top. And as you spritz, these balls seem to be like dandelions; they would fall apart. So, and we're going to see how much do you have left over that it should be considered a good hazah. We're going to have machloikis between Rabbi Yossi and the Chachamim whether 2 works or not. And that same machloikis by para, since you needed an azoiv, will be poisher hashayla, or that in fact, well, we are poisher hashayla. It's machloikis. 1 is fine. Is not an eged. 1 is not an eged. 3 is an eged. What's 2? That's a machloikis. Where do we find the machloikis? By para aduma. And now we're going to go bring in the para aduma where this machloikis is. Shnai is machloikis of Yosef Rabbanan. Now, a Mishnah in para in the 11th parak in para. That nan. Mitzvahs Ezoiv, the mitzvah of Ezoiv that's required by paraduma that you would dip it into the mechatos and sprinkle on the person, is shloisha klachim, 3 stalks, ubehen shloisha give oilim, and on the 3 stalks you had 3 stems, so 9. Rabbi Yossi Omer mitzvahs Ezoiv, the mitzvahs of Ezoiv is shloisha give oilim, 3 stems, v'shiyarav shnayim, and as you sprinkle, you should remain with 2. The girdumav, and if it falls apart, the stubs, kol shehu. From each, you would need a kol shehu left over. So now, the Chachamim said 3. Rabbi Yosef said 3 gevoilim. Now, kasalka daitach mid'shiyarav shnayim, when you only need leftover of 2, tchilasei nami shnayim. The beginning would also be 2. So you'd have 2 stalks with 3 in each. You'd have 6 gevoilim on the top. So the pashtus, there's your machloikis, right? Whether it's considered eged. The one who said, guys, you need 3, the chachamim, pashtus, would be 3. Loit Reb Yossi, it would only need 2. So that's considered eged. So you have machloikis. And now we can go ahead and illuminate the machloikis that what the Reb Yossi is the one who holds 2 is considered an eged. Because you need Ezoiv by what? By paraduma. Yes.
It says anyway the word egg by paraduma?
No, as Ezoiv seems to be that Ezoiv when you have it should be all together, right? It's tied together.
Right, but it's not. That's a natural occurrence.
No, I'm saying this is you see from here you need egg, right?
But that's not. But the thing is natural with bulls, right?
No, the balls are natural, but they need all together. You have to start with 3 stalks.
Right?
It's not the right. It's not from the balls. It's from the 3 stalks. Yeah, it's from the 3 stalks, right? Yeah, don't get that. That's keep your eye on the ball. I understand what you're not to be facetious. I didn't mean that, but certainly I didn't. You know what? No. Okay. Anyway, so fellas, we have Pashtus Nahavamina, 2 for Rabbi Yossi, 3 for what? For the Chachamim. And now, so you answer your question, what's considered eged? It's machlokes. Now the Gemara is going to change it around. Now that you understand it, the Gemara will change it. Now, says the Gemara, Kasal Kedaitach, with the Shiyar of Shnayim, when the leftover, you need leftover Gevoilim as you spritz the Shnayim, Chilasinami Shnayim, the beginning that the stalks would be Shnayim. V'haidik Tani Shloisha, why does it say 3? The Mishnah says 3, guys, is La Mitzvah, but not that 2 would not be considered eged. Now, when the Rabbi Yossi Shloisha La Mitzvah, the Rabbanan Shloisha La Akev. Right? And when the Rabbi Yossi says 3 is the mitzvah, the Rabbanim would say 3 is ma'akiv. You need 3, and if you don't have 3, it doesn't work. So that's the machlokes. Here's the problem. We're going to show that Rabbi Yossi holds you need 3. Tanya, Rabbi Yossi Omer, Ezoiv she, put in the word of shin. Ezoiv she tchilasei shnayim. An Ezoiv that its beginning is 2. V'shiyoroiv echad. And why it only remains 1 puzzle. So Pashtus guy's what? Vein a kosher actually tchilasei shloisha u'shiyar shnayim. So you have 2, 1, it's no good. 3, 2, it is good. But he says openly you need 3. He says openly you need 3. Good. So how can you say 2? He says puzzle. You know, can't say that it's lemitzvah. He says it's puzzle. Says Rabbi Yossi, shleish la'akev le'banan shleish lemitzvah. Okay, it's still a machlokes. Rabbi Yossi is the one who says 3. In other words, Rabbi Yossi is the rabbanon in the Havamina. 3, you need 3, and the Chum say we need 2. It says 3. It's a mitzvah. It's the mitzvah to begin the paraduma with 3. Iva Tanya, guys, a proof for Tanya. Guys, we're going to prove this pshat that the Chacham hold 2 is okay. For Tanya, Ezav shetchilasei shnayim, an Ezav that you began with 2 stalks, the shiur of echad, and you only end up with 1 kasha. So you got it, guys, right? You have a sheet that holds 2. It says openly, Ezav shetchilasei shnayim shiur of echad kasha. The ain't a puzzle at shetchilasei shiur of echad. And it's only puzzle until you have 1 and you have 1 that remains, right? If read the Gemara shiur v'echad puzzle, he just told me ha'am shiur v'echad kasha. Guys, 2 lines above, Tanya, Ezav shetchilasei shnayim u'shiur of echad kasha. You just told me 1 left over is kasha. So how can you tell me you start off with 1 and tchilasei is 1, shiur is 1 is what is puzzle? I'm kasha. You just said it's kasha. On the base, Ela Ema say actually tchilasei k'shiurav echad. Only in our Zainachnam, if you left over 1, it's kosher. When is it puzzle? When you have a beginning like the leftover. Just like the leftover is 1, so to the beginning is 1. If the beginning is 1, then it'll be puzzle. But everyone else 3 is good. Everyone else 3 is good. Okay, so let's go. How do we get into this? Eged. You want to know what Eged is? Eged. What's Eged? And it's not even a bus company anymore, right? It's out of business, right? What's Eged? So it's 1 is nishkan eged. You have to tie something together. You tie 1 thing, it's not eged, right? That was the beginning of the Gemara. You had the stump, you tied it, there's only 1, it's not eged, right? You had the cane, you tied it up. No. Now, what happens when you have 3? Classic eged. 2, machlokes. Like Rabbi Yossi, nishkan eged. You need 3. Like the Chachamim, 2 would be eged. And that's it. That's how we got here. Okay. Darish Marema, Hani Israisa Desura. This Asraisa, the Surah, the Syrian type of konim, of reeds, misachim behem. Now, afal gav the ogdon, even though they're tied together, liminyon ba'almahu the ogdon. Now, there seem to be, when we say chavile kash, chavile yisrodim, is not good, guys, is because they would store them that way. They would go ahead and they would store them that way. So what are we worried about? We're worried about when you put it on l'shem schach. We're worried about a time that you put it on, not l'shem schach, because it was numali to go ahead and keep it in that state of what? Of being tied together. But let's say you go to the store and you buy something that you know the only reason it's tied together is he wants to sell you a dozen of them. Right. But you're not going to keep it in that state. You know for sure you're going to separate it. Then you don't have a problem. The whole Gezeres Eitzer doesn't apply because you're never going to keep it that way. Because the only reason it's tied together, like you buy cherries, right? They don't want they put cherries in a bag. They're not going to stay in a bag. You're going to take them out of the bag. They're just in the bag to maximize their money. A bundle of schach, right? You're not going to put a bundle up there and keep a bundle up there. No, they charge it exactly. So again, when it's leminyona and you know it's not, the chiddush is if it's not going to remain in that state, then there's no Gezeres Eitzer. Gezeres Eitzer, what are you worried about? That when you put it up the same schach, you may come to use an oitza, but you didn't put it up. Okay, says the Gemara. That's not worried. Okay, guys, please open up your books. Open up your books.
Okay, now close it.
Okay. As soon as you see a Baruch, I'll have to show everybody. What page? Call out the page. Avrami, call out the page. What?
44.
Page 44. What picture?
148.
Yeah, I can see it. I'll give it back. The teepee. The teepee, okay?
Thunderbird.
Huh? What? Who has picture? Yeah.
How's that any different than the haystack?
Yeah, he got permission. He's got juice. Yeah. Anyway, whatever.
How's the teepee different than the haystack?
What?
How's the teepee any better than the haystack?
Okay, well, because you're not using it as a sukkah, you're using it as schach. You're going to pick it up and put it on. You're not sitting it. The haystack is the sukkah. Okay, over here, guys, this was a bird trappist. They would go ahead and use this. Street for the Urvani. I think we have it in a mafket. We have street for the Urvani. So this is a bird. They would stay in here. So it would be tied together. You could use this as schach. Why? As we'll see. Hanit street for the Urvani. These huts. Kivin she hutra roish ma'adanim. Since you go ahead and untie the top, you untie the knots on top. Shalahen kisherim, the kosher. What's the chiddush? The ha'agidi mitatoi, and the bottom they're tied together. On the bottom they're tied together. So Amra Papa, the shari lahu. It's speaking where you unknotted it, but the braid is still in place. And what's going to happen? Since if you would pick it up, it would fall apart. It's not considered tied. Even though it has a string through that bottom string, since you untied it, if you pick it up, it would fall apart, right? Because most of the time, what's the purpose of all good is for transportation purposes, right? You're going to carry it. Over here, since you're carrying it, it would fall apart, then it's not a problem. So again, we're going through certain things that are not a problem. If the egg is not going to stay in that state, like the Asraisa de Surah, or it's not made for carrying, in this case, you're not going to carry it because it's going to fall apart, then it's not a problem. So an Amra of Hunabrei of Yeshua, afilu tema delay shari lahuk. Right? I could say even if you don't unknot it, even if you don't unknot it, eged sheina asila taltalay, an eged that's not made for carrying, loishmei eged. Since you untied the top and the bottom is, even if you didn't untie the bottom, that's the way I'm learning. Then since you can't carry it, it'd be permitted. Let's see Rashi over here. Sheina asila taltalay. Go down a little bit, fellas. Sheina asila taltalay. Kikain zeh shemish. Once you undo the top knot, if you're going to carry it, it's going to fall apart by itself. It only has a piv kalua, a small braid to go ahead and hold on nitzarim. Therefore, it's going to fall apart. Okay, that's the case of Tzrif Dervini, and you got to use your books. I'm happy. Says the Gemara Vayta. Back to Mara, right? The different things that you could be yaitza on Pesach. The Mishnah in Mishnah quoted 5 things that you could be yaitza on Pesach, right? We said chaseres, ulshin, other ones. Ain't mevian, guys, listen to this. Mevian es hatuma. They bring tuma. Vein choitzim fnei hatuma. Okay, guys, let's do it outside. When it says it brings tuma, what does that mean? It means that if I have a mace underneath here, and this is over here, so this is gonna bring the tuma. So if I have a romaine lettuce leaf like this, and a mace over here, that's gonna be tuma. That's made v'ines atuma. We all know that. Good. The ena choitzim fnei atuma. If you have of something on top over here, and the mace is underneath, it's not going to be chotzeitz. Now that is a stira minei ubei. If you're telling me that it's considered a roof to be everything's under the same roof, why is it not considered a roof to be a chatzitza? So Rashi is going to address that. And finally, if you put it on top of the sukkah, even though it's not makabel tuma, right, and even though most people don't eat it, they eat it for mara, they don't eat it in a normal manner, right? Nonetheless, these are all very flimsy. They're also very subject to dried out. So therefore, that's the reason why it's not chotzeitz. We'll view it as if it's not there. And that's the reason why by pschach, we'll view it as schach puzzle. We'll view it as schach puzzle. We'll view it as ear space. There's a difference between ear space, not schach puzzle. We'll view it as ear space. The difference is, if you look at Rashi, guys, this is it's important Rashi. If you look at the Rashi, Uposel b'sukim mishum avir. I'll get back to the Tumah part in a second. Uposel b'sukim mishum avir. If it goes down, the list before it gets wide, a few lines down. Uposel b'sukim mishum avir. Kishir she'avir posel ba. The shear that empty space in the sukkah would passel. The hainu b'shloisha tefachim, 3 tefachim. Kidamin l'kamon b'pirkin, as we'll see later on. Avir b'shloisha. V'lei misharina l'hu l'psul kishir shar schach posel. But we won't view it as schach puzzle the oichel royal kabel tumahu. The schach puzzle ain't a puzzle elba arba tfachim. Schach puzzle, guys, would be puzzle with 4 tfachim. So in other words, we're being machmir. It's going to puzzle at the 3-yard line, not the 4-yard line. It'll be considered airspace because we'll consider it not even being there because it'll dry out. Versus schach puzzle, it's there, but that sheer schach puzzle is 4 tfachim. The emsa, uba arba amas min atzad, 4 amas from the side, where you don't say dofen akuma. Ela ki avid. Right? Good. So guys, hear this. So these things that are very, 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 they have no shelf life whatsoever. They just get ruined, and they're flimsy. So therefore, it's not going to be a chatzitza. Now, really, it is there. Really, it is there. So Rashi is going to address. It's really a gezerah. Right? Yeah. Let's go back to the Rashi. Yiraku shomer chachamim. Yiraku shomer chachamim Pesach shad v'yetzidin deimor. Chazeres ulshin shar chavarasayim dakosim. They're very dakos. They're flimsy. Hilkach in chaytzim v'nei atumah. There's not good chatzitza and sikach ben gag. So therefore, it's not going to go ahead and be a partition between something on top of it. So, guys, kasha. So if that's the case, then why does it bring tumah? Why, if you're underneath it, does it bring tumah? If you're telling me it's not a ceiling, why does it bring tumah underneath? On that he says, you shouldn't be samech on it. Don't be samech alayu v'chiyav shinami. Miyu ba'odin la'achem cholzim deraisa will be a good chatzitza. So the rabbanon it's a gezerah. So it's there, it's good, right? And that's why it brings the tumah mid rabbanon they were geisa. Okay, weiter. Okay, bottom line is this would not be it would be treated as airspace, not schach puzzle. Treated as airspace. Unbelievable. Says the Gemara weiter. My time, a kivin the l'chiyavshi. I spoke this out already. Kin l'chiyavshi parchiv enoughly. Since when it dries out, it'll crumble and fall. Command the less nudam. You'll view it as not there, and therefore treated guys as aver as airspace. Now you're harvesting grapes. Boitz is guys the ocean of harvest of grapes. You're harvesting grapes, but legas. Not for the purpose of eating the grape, the purpose of pressing the grapes. Now, let me preface this with there's a homosexual called uksin, literally stems. There's something called a yadla tuma. A yadla is, you find it in different cases. For example, you have a kli and you have the handle. That's a yadla. You touch the handle, it's going to transport the tuma into the kli. What happens if you have an apple and it's got a little thing on top? It's going to transport it in. Can transport it in. So here I have grapes, and the grapes, I have these stems going into the grapes. Are they considered yados or not? And the answer is, since I don't want them, because I'm going ahead and harvesting this lagas, I'm harvesting for the purpose of pressing the grapes and not the grape itself. Therefore, what? They would not be considered a yad. And we'll see what this has to do with sukkah. Says the Gemara. So his first din, haboitz lagas. What? What?
When I eat the grape,
Again, you're eating it, but they had their purpose behind it. As we're going to see, there was a purpose behind it. You go ahead, and it will make things easier. You could pick it up easier. There's different things for it. Hapoitzel gas in liyadais. Hapoitzel gas is not a v'yad. Rav Menashe ben Gada Rav Huna hakoitzel schach. If you cut something for schach, you're cutting stuff for schach. In liyadais. In liyadais. Now, manda amakoitzel. Rav Menashe says even if you cut schach, kol shekain boitze, certainly harvesting. Why? He's not good with what? The stems. It shouldn't go ahead and absorb his wine. In other words, the stems absorb the moisture from the grapes. So you don't want the stems to be part of the process. Right? When you make grapes up from you took out all the stems and everything, you just threw it all together. What? When you have a machine. Okay. Manda ama boitza. Okay, Manda ama boitza, the one who says boitzer, the one who says that harvesting of grapes, shein lo yadois, boitzer, harvesting fruit for the purpose of schach, yesh lo yadois. You would have a yad. Why? The nichle de l'sachich pohu. He's fine to be mesachich with it. Ki heichid lo lebadron, in order that what? That it shouldn't go ahead and get scattered. Now, guys, we said you can't go ahead and make schach of something that is makabel tumah, right? You can't make schach of something that's makabel tumah. You can't. So obviously over here you must have roivim the yad over the fruit, or else you can't put it up there in the first place. Good. In other words, we're speaking about you're harvesting fruit. You're harvesting. You're cutting off wheat, let's say, and you got the gazunta kernels, but you have really a lot of right. That yad has to be more, or else what are we talking about? So now here's the chiluk between the two. Everyone universally holds that you go ahead, you bite the gas, you don't want the stems, because the stems are going to take away what from your wine. The stems will take away from your wine. Not everyone would agree that if you koitza for schach, that you don't want the yad, because what the yad will do, it'll weigh down and keep the schach from going ahead and getting wind driven all over the place. So therefore, okay, now says name, let us say the Rav Menashe Bar Gada, who holds, fellas, that you koitza legat, you koitza for schach. Tanoya, let's say it's about like Tanoya. The Tanya. Suche te'enim, you have branches of figs, ubehem te'enim, and you got figs on them. Parchilim, you have clusters of grapes, ubehem anavim. Kashin, you have stalks, ubehem shibolim, you have sheaves on top. Machbedois, you have the brooms of dates, ubehem tamarim. Kulan, all of them. In psoiles meruba ala oichlin, if you have more psoiles than oichlin, where you can be mevatel the oichel's mekabel tama, then kashera, it will be kasha. The imlav, and if not, psula. Acherim oimrim, amchelim say, ashe koshim merubim, not only on the fruit guys, but ala yodois the ala oichlin. You have to mevatel the yad. So like the Tanakama, you don't have to mevatel the yad. Why? Because we're not going to count it. Like the acherim, you will have to mevatel the yad. My lab b'hokanifli, the masav yesh lehem yadois. The acherim hold they have yadois, and therefore you have to mevatel it. Masav and Tanakama holds ein lehem yadois. Now, L'Reb Abba, who said that what? That only if you cut for the kaitza only for you have yad only by grapes, but he would not agree by kaitza. Vade tanohi, vade it's machlokes tanoim, because here you have one Tanakama says the acherim hold clearly there is a yad, correct? So he who said is din only by grapes, but not by sukkah, would disagree. So he can't come according to acherim. However, the Rav Menashe Bar Gada milema tanohi, are you subject to say that is a machlok of this time? Okay, so now Amalach Rav Menashe, the Kuliyama Sabi HaKoitz L'Schach in L'Yadais. Everyone holds HaKoitz L'Schach in L'Yadais. So if everyone in L'Yad, so why the Acherim? What's the story of the Acherim? You have to mevat L'Yad. V'achamaiskin and going shekoitzim la'achila, you cut it to eat, v'nimlach alei l'sich, and you change your mind. Okay? You cut it to eat what? And you change your mind. Says Gemara, so now the Gemara goes off and it's very, very involved. And Bez Hashem, we'll continue tomorrow.
Shkoyach, thank you.